Hey everybody, this is Jim, the Tabletop Engineer, and welcome to a new episode. I am still making some Stargrave terrain. I actually got to play my very first game recently. I played against a friend here in Atlanta named Todd. We didn't really know what we were doing. We'd read the rule book. I'd read it a few times, and I believe Todd had as well. But we just wanted to play it. We didn't play a particular scenario. We just played it to see what it was all about. We really both enjoyed it. We also realized that we needed to go back and reread the rules because we just weren't as familiar with it as the other game we were playing, which was Frostgrave. But long story short, Stargrave is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's very entertaining. I like the sci-fi element. I like the combat. It's very similar to Frostgrave in a lot of mechanics, but there are a lot of differences which make it a totally unique game in its own. So what I also realized when I played that game was how low I am on sci-fi terrain. Now we were able to borrow some from the game store where we were playing, but Todd also managed to bring some from a game he has, and I also own a copy called Core Space. I just didn't think about it, but it's cardboard terrain that sort of slots together, and it looks really, really good on the tabletop. But what I want is I want some scatter type terrain. So in this episode, what I'm going to show you is I was thinking about Star Wars. One of my favorite vehicles when I first saw the movie when I was little was the Sand Speeder that Luke and Ben, took the droids into Mos Eisley on, and it had that beat up look. It had that used look. It wasn't a spaceship. It wasn't intended to go into space. It was just a car, for lack of a better word. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to create something for my sci-fi tabletop that would be similar. It would be a vehicle that could be used as like a getaway car or whatever, but it would be a sci-fi type vehicle, not capable of flying. So in this episode, I'm going to show you what I came up with, and this is how I did it. I used nothing more than a simple squirt gun right here. I bought a 4-pack of these for $6. So that's what, $1.25 each. $1.25. And then I bought a 10-pack of these little cheap plastic cars. They don't have plastic windshields. They just have an interior that I liked. And this was a 10-pack for, I want to say it was $5 or $6. It was dirt cheap. So with these two items in mind, let me take you to the desktop and show you what I came up with. It's not pretty, but it is something that is very sci-fi and something that if I were a scoundrel smuggler type, I would totally be running for it as my getaway vehicle. Let's get to the tabletop and let me show you what I'm talking about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it the Leapfrog, for lack of a better word. It looks like something that would jump. I gave it a nice, dirty, oily, dark tone wash to just really give it the worn-in look. The painting was all done very rough, in muted blues and brass colors. Nothing really vibrant that would stand out. This thing is supposed to look used, and I like it. It really, it just looks. It's a two-seater, so it looks like something that would just be sitting on the table. It could be used possibly in a scenario, or it's just a piece of scattered terrain. It's just maybe it's a vehicle that doesn't work. It's just been sitting there because somebody left the keys in it. It died, and they decided to leave it alone. Anyway, my purpose here was to show you how you could take real cheap toys, like a water pistol or a cheap toy car, and use them for parts to create a sci-fi vehicle. Now, it's very likely that you're not going to have access to this exact same water pistol or this exact same car, although I did get these from Big Lots. So if you have a Big Lots, maybe run in there and check, and you'll see if you have these. Again, this was a 4-pack, and this was, I believe, a 10-pack. And it came in a long tube of just one right after the other. But if you don't have these, you could still go to your dollar store, your Dollar General, your Big Lots, find some cheap, inexpensive water guns and maybe some vehicles, and scavenge them for parts. I used the interior, the seats, and the inside of the car. I used the wheels. I used all kinds of parts from this thing. I ended up having to cut the handle off again. There's so much detail on these water pistols. But the handle just needed to go, so I used a bandsaw to cut that off. But obviously you have to use what you have at hand, and of course I went to my junk bin for the remaining little bits and pieces that had to be glued on. Everybody's is going to look different, but I hope this gave you some inspiration that you can do this. You could totally make yourself a beat-up old sci-fi vehicle just from some cheap toy parts and some bits from your junk bin. Paint it up real ugly and then give it a dirty wash, and you're in business. So there you go. All right, that's all I have for you this week. I'll be back next Wednesday with a new crafting video. In the meantime, I do invite you to come over to the Tabletop Crafters Guild. I am one of the 5 guild masters there. We run a tight ship. Not really. We run a Facebook page where we welcome crafters and gamers to come and share the stuff they're making for their game table. You can ask questions, show off the stuff you've been making, and just find like-minded individuals. I'd also like to invite you to my own personal Facebook page, the Tabletop Engineer Facebook page. Not only do I do the same things, I put photos and videos up, but I also use it to host other things. Like every Thursday, I have a show and tell where I get on live on Facebook, the Tabletop Engineer Facebook page, and I introduce things like books, game resources, and products that I've gotten or been sent, and I introduce them to you and give you my thoughts on them. Fridays, I tend to do something I call Paint a Pair of Minis. It's also live. I use Zoom for that. You can come and join. We can chat while we paint. And it's very productive. I've gotten quite a few minis painted during those types of online gatherings. All right, this is Jim, the Tabletop Engineer. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Take care.
Each month, Bexham's Bizarre RPG and Wargaming magazine provides gamers with articles, props to print and cut out for players, mini adventures, new monsters, and much more. Look in the description below for details on how to get a few free issues so you can see what you're missing.